Are you there?
Hey.
Okay, good. So Karen, so what happened yesterday? How did they break the logjam?
Well, if you're the Republicans, you say the Democrats caved, and they decided to go with this government spending bill because they realized they weren't going to get DACA included in it, and that ultimately they were concerned about what the shutdown was going to do for them politically. If you're Democrats, you say, well, we got a commitment from Mitch McConnell to move forward, take up legislation in the next couple of weeks, and if he doesn't, we can always try this again. And also, Children's Health Insurance Program got funded for 6 years.
Yesterday we talked about this, and there was a lot of confusion on the public's part over what exactly they were fighting over because they did nothing more than kick the can down the road for a couple weeks.
Right. I mean, essentially what was passed on Friday night in the House, it's this, but a week shorter, which, you could say then gives the Democrats a little bit more pressure to try and get something done quicker on immigration, 3 weeks instead of 4 weeks. I think that's the big question now is what happens next. And there's no promise from the White House on what the president's going to commit to. He said last night, see you at the negotiating table on Twitter. But in his statement, he said he'll make a long-term deal on immigration if and only if it's good for our country. And no surprise, he's up already this morning and he's tweeting and saying that nobody knows what Republicans and Democrats will be able to reach on DACA by February 8th. But he says everyone will be trying.
Whenever this thing runs out, February 8th, even if the Senate comes together and passes something, it still has to pass the House. And the House, it seems like, has no appetite to agree to anything Democrats agree to when it comes to immigration.
Yeah, it certainly would be tougher for the hardliners over there. You got to get them on board. But I think this is where the president comes in. And if the president is on board, if there's a compromise reached that he agrees with, then that's where Paul Ryan goes back to his caucus and says, we got to do this now. But he's not going to do that until you see what the president does.
So I know you're not. I know you don't read the tea leaves, or you can't look into your crystal ball. But in 3 weeks, February 8th, are we doing this again?
Certainly a possibility. That's a vague answer, but yeah, I mean, it'll depend on what happens in the next two, I think, where the signals seem to be heading.
Yeah.
But keep in mind, the House is out this week. The president's heading to Davos, Switzerland for a few days. Next week is the State of the Union, so that kind of takes up the oxygen for a day and a half or 2 days. So, again, the clock is ticking.
Yeah, State of the Union, that's a whole other interesting little tidbit. We'll talk about that next week.
Next Tuesday.
Kara Travers, have yourself a good day. Thanks.